We are going live. We are going live. And welcome to the first live session of the year 2023. I want to apologize to everybody for the last time I went live and then I was supposed to go live. And then it actually didn't happen. And so the problem is I called my backroom guy and I said, hey, do you mind letting go ahead and cancel the live? Because last Friday, just so everyone knows, last Friday, I was supposed to go live and it just so happened that I was training some police in breathwork and the training went a little long. No, they did not take me to jail. But the training went a little bit longer than it was supposed to go. And so then I didn't make it home in time to do the afternoon live. So I didn't get the live last week. So I'm going to make up for it today. Today is the monthly Patreon Club live. So I'll be answering all the Patreon Club questions. And the way I do that is there's a certain tier on the Patreon Club. If you're not familiar with the Patreon Club, take a look at the description box below. Or you can just go to jessecoomer.com. There's a Patreon, click there. You can go to my landing page, click on the Patreon. You can join up. Starting next month, we are going to do a challenge. And I think this may become a usual thing, but we'll see how it works. It's going to be a challenge, a everyday breathwork challenge. And every single day next month, there will be a completely different session that everyone in the group is challenged to do. And I want people to check in. So I want to see if for 28 days straight next month, everybody can do the same sessions every single day. Is going to be a different one. So one day we might be doing a session to help relax. Another day we might be doing something that's more of like a DMT release type of a thing, altered state, a lot of different stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. So if you haven't already joined the Patreon Club, what are you waiting for? We have a lot of fun. Actually, after this YouTube live, we're going to go and I'm going to switch over to the Zoom session and we have our monthly breath party. So it's in Zoom. Everybody gets together. It's a group breath session that I guide, and I'm going to guide you through. I am wearing my Dolly Parton shirt today. It is Dolly Parton's birthday. So I assume is watching. And so happy birthday, Dolly Parton. I'd also like to thank all of the Patreon subscribers. You guys are literally keeping me going. And without you, I would not be able to do a lot of the things that I do. And of course, I do have to charge money for my services and for my training, but there are a lot of things that I am able to do that I don't have to charge for, because I do believe that I do believe breathwork is for everyone. And so that's why, even for the charge stuff, even if you want to join the Patreon Club, it's $5 a month and you get access to 100, it's my full catalog of guided breathwork. You're going to be able to do the breathwork of the day challenge next month with me. You get all kinds of perks. We do the breath group session for just $5 a month. So it's barely anything, especially when you compare it to, I don't know, coffee, which I'm going to take a quick drink of my tea. I have a spot of tea. Had a killer workout earlier today, and I'm just like, just want to nap. So I'm having a little caffeine. Hey, Josephine Elizabeth. Hello from Kansas. Well, hello from Indiana. It's nice to have you here. The wind outside is blowing like I would imagine it blows in Kansas. I don't have a frame of reference. I guess I have been to Kansas. I went Kansas City, Kansas, right? It's Kansas City, Kansas, and then across the river is Kansas City, Missouri. Am I right? Because it's like one big city, and it just depends on which side of the river you're in, or which side of the river you're on, depending on like what state you're in. Okay, all right, cool. I think I was on both sides of the river when I was there, but I know I stayed on the Kansas City, Missouri side. But I had a great steak there, and so that was really nice, and everybody treated me really well. Most of it is in Missouri. Okay, all right, why not? I'll have Illinois City, Indiana, and I'll put most of it in Indiana. I don't know. I don't make the rules, right? Somebody else made up the rules for that. I'm going to take one more sip. So today I'm going to be answering some questions. And the reason we do the Patreon once a month is because there are some people that pay a little bit extra in the tiers. And so what I do is I will answer any question. I don't care what it is. They can ask me about breath work, which is typically what most people ask me about. This week, I think there's mostly about biohacking. What I do is I like it so that I can give them an answer like I would give a client, as if they were paying me an hourly wage, which if that's something a person can do if you want to, but if you're like, yeah, I really don't feel like doing that quite so much, but I'd have these questions. So if you join the Patreon club, there is a tier where you can ask anything you want, and it can be personal. It can be, just about anything. I guess I'll reserve the right to, if it gets super personal, maybe not answer it, but so far no one's crossed the line yet. And if you did ask a personal question, I just want you to know, I am pretty much an open book these days, and that's a change. I would say, earlier on in my life, I just didn't really want to share a lot. I had a lot of secrets and things, but I'm pretty much an open book these days. I mean, I don't want to. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to take sides on an argument that I really don't. I just don't want to do that. Or there's some things that I would say, please don't ask me about, but I would still tell you the answer in the chat. So here we go. All right. Oh, also, I want to thank our sponsor, MagicMind. And MagicMind, I've been taking this now for forever, and I've almost dropped it. And I got to say, if you're, just so you know, my new book, Language of Breath, is coming out in October of this year. That's when it's supposed to come out. Hopefully, there's not going to be some kind of crazy weird delay. But I drank this every single day while I was writing the book, and I credit it a lot to my ability to stay focused. I wrote almost all day, every day. It was probably not very healthy for me. But anyway, cheers. Now, they said it wasn't going to clump, but I think it clumps just as much as the old one. It's still good. I mean, obviously, I'm taking it. I still like it. All right. So, hey, Josephine, you said I was part of the Patreon club for 1 month, but haven't updated my card info yet. Oh, okay. We'll be doing it soon, though. Well, yeah, welcome. Come on back. And hey, if you can come back within the next hour, and you can log in, join us for the breath party. So that's what we're going to be doing the next after this live is done. Okay, let's get to the questions today. Enough of this chit chat. Let's get to the questions, because I've got quite a few questions to answer today. In the Patreon club, for some reason, most people just send me their questions privately. And maybe it's just because I don't know why, but it's fine. It's totally fine if you're sending it to me privately. But my friend Molly Mathau sends me these publicly, and so this one's an interesting one. This one has to do. He says, "I hope this is a question that hasn't been asked before." So Molly, first of all, if you're watching, I know we've gone back and forth. Molly's been under a lot of stress, and so we're going to be, hopefully you can make it to the next, to the session after this. He says, his question is, do you think negative ions are good for health, as they are found in nature, but typically are absent in homes, potentially leading to too little exposure to them? I have an air purifier at home that works by producing these negative ions. And I do feel better when it's on, but I don't know if it is just the absence of the dust that is helpful, or the negative ions that add some more benefit to it. So okay, so let's talk about that for just a minute. When it comes to negative ions, this is literally the answer, that because I've researched this, and I have friends that are saying, Jesse, you need to do an episode on earthing, because they know I'm a big fan of earthing. Okay, so if you're not familiar with earthing, it is the practice of going out and touching the ground with your skin. And it's very common amongst barefoot enthusiasts like myself. Oh my God, am I really going to do this? I'm barefoot all the time. I'm basically barefoot as often as I can possibly be barefoot. And I think this is not something I did because I found out about earthing or grounding, or saw a documentary, which there are multiple documentaries out there about grounding. Um, it's something that I've always been a real barefoot kid. I was always a barefoot kid, and I've always literally thought, why wouldn't you touch the planet that you live on? A person should touch the planet that they live on at least once a day. And I've thought that for I don't know how long. And then I found out about earthing, and it wasn't, and I didn't have any real reason for that other than, hey, we live on a planet. Why won't you touch it? You so so this is the thing I'll say, Molly, about this. Um, so I think negative ions are probably going to be. There's not. I've looked at the research, and I don't think right now we've had enough research to really tell us what they're doing. Right? We know that there's an issue of picking up. Of course, we're constantly touching electronics, and we rarely ground. And we know that there are benefits to, for instance, grounding. Now, most of the research that I've seen, and it could be that I'm ignorant in some way on some of this, but I have looked at it quite a bit because I've wanted to do an episode for a long time on this. But I don't think we really have enough evidence to know exactly what it's doing. But I think that's something we're going to find out probably in the next 10 to 20 years. And the reason I say this is because and I hate using the word biohacking. I think the word's been overused. But as a coach, a health coach, breath worker, a person who I help people with their diets, exercise, cold train, hot train, all these things. What I keep seeing over and over again is that we are a species that we've had an incredible success of conscious thinking. Our conscious thinking mind has put us head and shoulders above all other species with regards to what we can do with our environment and how we can change our natural living situations. And it's if you just think about this, like, you know, the it, it has so let's see, when did I think it was like early 1900s, so maybe 120 some years ago, man first developed the ability to fly, right? And then, so that's not a lot of time. And then we've got now satellites all over. We've got, I mean, flying is everyone does it. It's just kind of an everyday thing. We went to the moon already, and unless maybe it was Stanley Kubrick. But you know what I mean? Like, we have advanced so quickly that we have, I think, overlooked a lot, and we just are ignorant to the fact that we need a lot of the things from our environment. We understand that if you put us up in space, we lose bone density because we need the stress from gravity. We have to have certain things from our environment, and I think negative ions are going to be one of those things that we find out later on what exactly they're doing. The anecdotal evidence and the somewhat scientific evidence that I've seen. So the things that I've seen that I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I think, it's clear that it has some kind of an impact on our inflammation. So, that now what the mechanism is there, I don't think we've really figured it out yet. And I think personally, I think it's worth saying, well, it's probably doing something. And I know, like, this isn't incredibly scientific sounding, but based off of, okay, we realize we need hot. Our physiology needs to be stressed with heat now and then. It needs to be stressed with cold now and then. Our physiology needs to be stressed with gravity. When we grow up, children, if they can tell the difference between children who've jumped around and played on playgrounds versus children who haven't by just looking at their bone density. And that is something that affects them the rest of their lives. Okay. So there's these stressors that they've just been part of life. They've just, and maybe they're not even stressors, just elements of human living that we've had in our lives and we just didn't really think anything about them. But now that they're absent, okay, suddenly we're realizing we're sicker now. We're not quite as healthy as we used to be. Wonder what that is, right? And for the longest time, we didn't understand exercise. Who was it? I think it was Humphrey Bogart that was in Streetcar Named Desire, and and he had lifted weights, and people thought he was so weird for doing that. What are you doing? We get all these muscles for? I mean, the concept. I mean, just think about that. I remember seeing an old episode of the Johnny Carson show, and there was Red Skelton, who was a huge comedian. He was the first comedian with a TV show, like in America. The first comedian with a TV show, as far as I know, was Red Skelton. And he's from my little town, my hometown in Indiana. And yeah, exactly. Thank you. You gotta love Humphrey Bogart, right? And Elizabeth, you are in. Sweet. Awesome. You also have a question if we have time. Oh, cool. Actually, I got to get to these other questions, don't I? But I guess to come back to Molly's initial question, I personally would recommend, first of all, if you feel better, do it, right? If it's something that's like, I have a noticeable, that's when you learn, like my breathwork philosophy, I call it the language of breath, right? And the whole goal is to learn how to have a holistic approach to your health. It's not just about breath work. It does focus on breath work, but there's an underlying philosophy, and that is that you have to learn to develop awareness. And once you have that awareness, then you can start to make changes. And then you have to be aware as those changes happen so that you can know, okay, so what was the end result, right? What was the end result of this thing? What did my physiology say back? What did my unconscious self do in response to that conscious action? Well, I think it's the same with just about everything. And, first of all, pure air, the more clean you can make your air, the better, bar none. I think that's one of the biggest overlooked things in breath work. People act like, I think sadly enough, people act like breath work is this magical thing that if you're doing it, especially whenever it's like, circular breathing and the heavy breathing, it's like somehow that in itself cleanses everything. And if you, I don't care who you are, and you're having an amazing session and maybe it's, I mean, there's definitely a lot of benefits, but if you're breathing in toxic air and you're right, and you might feel amazing, but you're breathing in toxic air. So clean your air. That's always a good thing. So I would say, Molly, definitely continue to do that. And then the negative ions, I think we're going to find out something really soon, within the next 5-10 years about what it is, how our physiology needs it. Because we know that there are frequencies. There's so many things that whenever you really start to look down into it, it's like, wow, I didn't know that. But we know that the earth has a frequency itself. And it's this very small, very, it kind of, people can overlook it. But I mean, it affects everything. So I say, go out and touch the ground every day with your feet, with your hands, roll around in it. Get dirty. It's okay to get dirty. I say we probably need to get dirty too. I know, we're just so into, I mean, the fact that, and I will say, I take a shower every day, right? But I know that that's not natural. Just think about that. Just think about that. It is not natural to be as clean as we are. It's more natural to, bathe randomly and rarely. So we're doing things that we don't realize there's impacts. And I say, lean into that negative ions, Molly Mathau, and check back with me on that. I'm all about grounding. I have a grounding sheet at my desk for my laptop or my desktop computer. I want to get one of those sheets for my bed. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. So, hey, all right. And hey, thank you so much, Davlavi. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. and thank you for making comments on all my videos. You don't know how much I love it when I see your name pop up and you'll say something cool. Like I think even earlier on you said awesome. It makes my day. I see it, brother and or sister, and I appreciate it. So thank you so much. And I hope you'll enjoy that next book too. So thank you. Let's see. Yuri, you can ask questions here in just a minute, but first I need to cover the questions asked by the Patreon members. So normally, hey, Josephine, I just got your notification. I'll be writing you a little welcome letter here in a minute. And by the way, when you join, the letter I write to you, some people are like, it's probably a form letter, or it was probably Chat GPT that wrote it. No, I actually write these things. I am overbooked all the time, but I really do appreciate you guys so much. So I always try to make time. For the people that make time for me. So I appreciate you. Okay. So Jambiel has a question. And let's see here. Okay. And let's see. So Jambiel says, hey, first off, really like your content on YouTube. Well, hey, thank you. Please keep doing what you're doing. However, we got two questions. First question. I've been taking 3 minutes cold showers for 18 days and still shiver. Okay. It has improved. I would shiver less compared to the first day, but I wanted, but I'd want to, okay. I want to stop shivering. Is there a way or a breath work that I could do before or after the cold exposure to force myself to stop shivering? Besides the horse stance, it helps, but sometimes I just don't want to do it. And there's people living with me and it's weird. Okay. First of all, let's talk about that. So yeah, she has other questions, and I'll get to that in just a second. And you're welcome to ask a question. I just need to answer the Patreon questions first. And the thing is, the nice thing is about the Patreon questions, they've already gotten into the tier, and I've been able to think about my answers as well. So I'm giving them a little rather than just off the cuff. But this is one that I do want to talk about. First and foremost, shivering is not bad. So I think a lot of people come to cold training through Wim Hof method. That's how I started it. And the thing is, I wasn't familiar before that. I really wasn't familiar with the rich and ancient practice of cold exposure training. I just thought, well, Wim Hof thought of it, and and he's very much about not shivering in the cold. And so typically and that's how I learned. That's literally how I learned to be in the cold, is to not shiver. And I would look at people who shivered, and I would look at them. They're shivering. I would kind of judge and things. But then I learned a lot, and then I was around a lot of people, and then I was humbled by many people. And so one of the greatest cold trainers of all time, his name is Joseph Coburl. Joseph Coburl, he's beaten the world record for the longest cold exposure twice. I think his last record was at 2.5 hours. That's legit, guys. I mean, that's a long time to be just skin to ice. And he says, shiver. He says the best part is shivering. And he says, and he's not wrong, the physiological response to cold is to shiver. And that's how we produce heat. And it's actually a miracle of physiology that we have this reflex to shiver. And so first of all, I want to just say to that, don't feel like you have to get into the cold and not shiver. Don't feel like that. It's I want to encourage you to. And don't feel any less or if you shiver. Now, the other thing I will say, if when it comes to reducing, if that's actually something you want to do, my favorite way when I train a lot of people in different methods, different styles, and I have a lot of people who just want to do cold training. And well, okay, the best way that I can tell you is to shake it out. So So you actually just get out the energy. It's like you have all this kinetic energy built up and it's making you shiver and you're like you're trying not to shiver and you're forcing it. And you're like, no, don't shiver. And then what I have found to be really effective is just do it like extreme, like, have fun with it, do it on purpose. And then take a nice deep breath in and then relax out nice as slow as you can. you know, and let yourself feel good because it's okay to do that. And normally what happens is that will give you some time where you're not shivering, and it helps a person relax. It helps a person just kind of just be present and calm and not shivering. And then what you might have happen, oh man, here's another shiver. Here's another shiver. And that's okay. First of all, don't worry. Don't judge yourself. Don't get down on yourself. It's okay to shiver. And that's Joseph Cobra, like world-class cold trainer, world record holder. So, not just any schmuck off the street. But then if the shivers come up and you still don't want to shiver, my best advice, take a nice deep breath in and go and just just shake it out, have fun with it. So I like to, one of my biggest pieces of advice for cold training, and this is where sometimes people disagree with me, and if you disagree, that's okay, but I think you should try to make it fun at all costs. And some people are like, well, I don't think you should make it like awful, but I think sometimes people look at it like it's got to be torture. Actually recently, one of my friends, she's just gotten into cold training, and she was getting her hair done or something like that, and her hairstylist spouse or something got into cold training, and she said, yeah, Jesse said just to make it fun, and she's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. And yeah, I guess you can make it into, like, I think a lot of times people want to make it into this meditative process, right? And you can do that if you want. But I think a lot of times, honestly, people do that because they don't know what else to do in the cold. They're like, well, okay, I'm here in the cold. Okay, it's cold. All right. And I'm naked. I think I'll pretend to meditate. I think I'll meditate for a while. Or you can just be like, wow, this is great. What a beautiful day. Oh my God. I have this amazing body that's getting me through this cold exposure. I like music. I think I'll listen to this song right now. I'm in the other camp. I'm all about, and you'll see plenty of pictures of me meditating in the snow and things like that. But ultimately, when I'm doing that, it's not like I'm trying to make it into a drudgery. I'm not trying to make it into any kind of a like a punishment. Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to make it into a punishment. I am simply trying to calm down and to enjoy myself. It always comes down, why do something? I mean, I do a lot of things that no one would want to do because they feel like it would hurt or because it would be uncomfortable or a lot of things like that. But I'm doing it so that I can enjoy my life. And that's, I would say, think about your end goal here. All right. So that was one of the questions. Let's see here. Okay. And she had another question. Second question. She said, what are your thoughts about sleeping without a blanket? Could it possibly be beneficial? What do you think? Okay. I've gotten this question a lot over the years, and I want to clarify something because it comes from a position. I know where you're coming from on this. So let me give you my 2 cents on this. First of all, a lot of people feel like, okay, I found out that cold exposure, it's first of all, it's not bad, right? So I've kind of gotten over that leap, and cold exposure, it's not going to make me sick. Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Now it can make you sick. It's not the cold, but it can cause such a stressor that if you already have something bubbling up inside you already, it can stress you out to the degree that that little something gets a little foothold. All right. So that's why we have to become really aware of ourselves. And that's why we're not shooting for like show off records and things like that. I think so often, because I get a lot of people asking me about that. Hey, every time I take an ice bath, I catch cold. I'm like, okay, are you trying to like get your money's worth out of all that ice that you bought? Yeah, I stayed in about 5 minutes. Yeah. So anyway, so the question has to do with, should I sleep without a blanket? Would there be a benefit to that? And the answer is, it depends. Okay. So the big thing here is, I think it comes from a position of saying, well, if the cold is first of all, it's not bad for me. The cold is good for me. So should I just be cold all the time? And I'll say the answer to that is no. It's not. It's not that. It's kind of like if and we do this as humans. So don't worry. My friend who's asked me this question. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. You are a member, and I appreciate you so much. And here Jambiel. Don't worry about this. This is something that I went through. I think a lot of cold trainers in the infancy go through this. When we're thinking about positive stressors, so we're trying to induce hormesis. So hormesis is the process where you can induce stress and then come out stronger and more resilient as a result of that stress. The problem is, you have to recover. It's not necessarily a problem. I guess it's a secret. So in order to get the benefit out of a stressor, you have to give yourself time to recover. It's the same. Like, for instance, I went to the gym today. I'm not in the gym right now. I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm going to do a different workout tomorrow than I did today because I want to stress different muscle groups, right? And so the thing is, I'm not going to constantly stress that muscle, or in this case, I'm not going to constantly give myself cold stress, because I know that in order to benefit from that cold stress, I have to give myself time to recover. So throw the covers on, be comfortable. If you're taking a cold shower every day, if you're getting in the ice bath, and make it fun, just do stuff. Hey, I'm going to go take a cold shower. I'm going to hop in that ice bath. I'm going to walk outside with hardly any clothes on. And just, if you're doing that every day, and then you go back into the warm, that's okay. That's totally fine. It's like, I always say, just think about it. It's like going to the gym. If I did arm curls and I never stopped, would my bicep get bigger? No, I would tear something. Right. And it's the same thing. So be comfortable when you sleep. Having said that, I thought about this question all week, and you sent it to me actually 2 weeks ago. So having said that, if you there is a lot of research that shows that when our circadian rhythms, if we really want to stay with our circadian rhythm, we would let our body temperature go down at night. It's just a natural thing we've had from our ancient ancestors. Just naturally, when the sun goes down, of course, it's cooler. It's always cooler at night, and that's, we're a diurnal a species, and so that's just a natural part of our circadian rhythm. So I would definitely be comfortable when you go to sleep, but I always recommend there. I know a lot of people, they'll put on jammies, and they'll have thick socks, and then they'll have like this and that, and then put on a blanket and all that. If that's what you need to just be comfortable, do that. But I would suggest trying to limit that, and don't overdo the blankets. Don't do the heated pad and all this stuff. Allow your body temperature to come down like it naturally should, because when you don't, you're going to interrupt your sleep. And so at the Coomer house, my family, they're always like, Dad, it's so cold. It's so cold in here. I'm like, you're welcome. So when the temperature in our home, I always keep it I keep it under what most people would say is room temperature. This house never gets to room temperature. It's always under room temperature. In the summertime, it's above room temperature, because I'm also still a dad, and that's what dads do. We save money on our heating bill. But in the wintertime, I love it because I can let the temperature come down to like 65 Fahrenheit. I would go colder. I probably would take it to 62 Fahrenheit if it were just me. But I don't want my family to move out and just incite this awful man who makes us freeze out every night. So that is my answer to you there. And then let's see. I think I had one more question. Oh yeah, okay. So this one is about the lack of sleep. And does that affect your cold training tolerance? Absolutely. When you're tired, it everything's harder. Let's just be real about it. And when you're tired, everything is harder to do. Um, and cold training, at least for me, is no different. Now, I know there's always going to be outliers. There's going to be somebody, maybe somebody here present today, who says, "No, man, when I'm tired, it's so easy to get in the ice bath. It's just ridiculous." But for me, if I'm tired, it's harder to do everything. And I mean, right? It's just natural that whenever you're underslept, you just don't have the energy, and you need energy to do things, especially challenging yourself to external stressors. So totally normal. Don't worry about that. Get a good night's sleep. And if you are struggling in your cold training journey, remember, I did write the book, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, and it's on my website, jessecoomer.com. And I talk about a lot of these things as well. But the big thing I would say is um, you're not going to lose your cold tolerance if you skip a day, or if you go easy on a day, or you add just a little bit of warm water on a day. Understand that you are a dynamic individual, a dynamic organism, and you're not a machine. And so it's not like one day if I skip, I think that's a really common fear in cold training. If I skip a day, I'm going to lose, or if I take a hot shower, I'm going to lose my cold tolerance. It's just not that way. Um, and I'm building back my cold tolerance. I had a long gap in my cold tolerance. I've talked about this a few times. My book, a practical guide to cold training, I'm working on my third edition of it. If you've already bought it, or if you buy it now or whatever, you'll get a free copy of the updated version. But I realized this last summer I was traveling so much that I didn't take an ice bath for months. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay off of the ice baths and try to feel what it's like for as close as I can, because I've been doing cold training for years. What is it like whenever a person is acclimating to the cold again? And it's been very educational for me, and it's been humbling. But it's making its way into my book so that I can help other people who are getting into cold training. All right, let's see here. Looks like we have a few questions. Now, I just want to say that usually this session, this YouTube live is dedicated to just answering people that are in a certain tier in my Patreon club. I didn't get a chance to have my YouTube live last week, which is where I normally just take random questions. So I'll take a few random questions today. Here in about 20 minutes, though, if you're in the Patreon club, we're going to have our breathwork party. And so I'll probably get off of here in about 10 minutes so that I have a quick break to run to the restroom, grab a glass of water, get the music all situated, and we'll get ready for the breath party. But it looks like Paul has a question here. He says, Hi, Jesse. I've been watching your videos for a while and appreciate your knowledge that you share with the world. Hey, thank you so much, Paul. He says, I've tried to convince friends to take cold showers or even finish with a cold rinse. 99% of them tell me I'm crazy. You're not alone, my friend. When it comes down to it, I mean, what do you think my life is? All of my and I will say the nice thing is over time, my friends and family have become like, my dad takes cold showers. Once I started taking cold showers, I told him about it. He's like, well, cool. Yeah, let's just do that. So my dad takes cold showers, but like most of my friends and family don't. And my friends over time, they they've kind of they're cool with, they're like, yeah, that's okay for you, but maybe not for me. Let's see, Josephine, you got a question? All right, I'll answer that here in a sec. But anyway, yeah, Paul says they're missing out on the effects you feel after you're done. That's my favorite part of an ice bath, is when I'm done and I get all of those happy chemicals. Okay, so Josephine, normally I have a little time to ponder the question. So if I don't fully answer this question, let me know and say, hey, it's okay. But let me answer this question for you right now, Josephine. Thank you for the question, by the way. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so this is a little long. Let's see, brain function. Okay, here it comes. Okay, let me get into it. We're gonna do this. So it says. So she says, I hope you don't mind. I'm reading this. Let's see. Let's see. I sent you a message in Patreon. If you don't have time to answer it today, completely understand, but I would love to hear your thoughts someday. It's totally okay. I get it. It's a bit of a long explanation. So sorry. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm happy. It's totally fine if I read it. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Guys, let's see what's on Josephine's mind. She says, sorry to jump in so late. I hope that you do have some time to talk about this today. I would love to hear your feedback. So first and foremost, I've recently discovered that I'm part of a small percentage of humans that have aphantasia, LOL. So if you haven't heard of aphantasia, here is what the internet has to say about it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Aphantasia, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that correctly, is the inability to visualize images. Interesting. Such as memories of personal experiences. While common and aphantasia was only recently given a name by scientists and research about the phenomenon in its infancy. So although the cause of aphantasia is unclear, it is likely rooted in altered brain function. February 11th, 2022 is apparently when that came out. I'm saying it correctly. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm a former English professor, but I am also very good at mispronouncing name things. Or, anyway, you get it. So she says, well, it had absolutely been a frustrating journey in the beginning of my meditation practice. I was trying to do guided meditations, and it was honestly just frustrating me because I thought that maybe I just wasn't doing it correctly because I couldn't understand how people were experiencing such impact from guided meditations and such, because I've always just thought that when people said, picture this in their mind's eye, that was just a figure of speech. Ah, yes. Okay. Or something, because I have never experienced a mental image. Okay, I've never experienced any mental imagery, not when reading books or even dreams. So when I realized that it wasn't just a figure of speech for most people, that they were actually seeing images in their minds, I was absolutely shocked and in disbelief. And then I found breathwork and started to be able to really connect with meditation sessions. And for the first time, actually felt some type of impact from breathwork practice that I was doing. Yes, yes, sister. That is so good to hear. I still don't have any mental imagery or anything. I just sort of let go of that idea that I never would have images in my mind like other people do. And I was able to connect with a profound inner knowledge of things. That a girl. That's what I'm talking about. LOL. I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but I'm sure that you're getting the picture. First of all, I got to say, I like Josephine a lot already. Thank you for sending me this because she gave me a pun. I hope you're getting the picture. She put it in quotes. I don't know if you know how much I love dad jokes and puns, but I think we just became best friends. Although it has made some things very frustrating and confusing for me in some ways, but I've realized that I'm able to have a completely clear and quiet mind with ease. So it has made my practice of meditation very, very simple. So basically, my question is more of just wanting to hear your thoughts on this. Sorry to ramble. Hey, don't worry about it. Let's see here. I've got time. Yeah, let's talk about this. So yes, I caught it. Hey, puns. I'm a sucker for puns. So this is interesting. So I know that, so the human experience is so profound. And so whenever I wrote my recent book, which will come out in October, like it's early in the process and it's called The Language of Breath. I'm hoping we're going to use this as the cover, but I don't know because I'm going through traditional publishing. And so I have the publisher and all this stuff and an editor and all these things. It's been a real education on how that process works. But one of the things that I really stress is that we often think of ourselves as a mind that drives around a body, right? And we have this duality. I guess there's this weird. I suppose we have a border at our neck, and this like, well, I'm up here, and then. And in reality, it's all one thing. It's like 37.2 billion cells working together to help you survive and thrive. And we have two basic experiences of this. We have a conscious experience and unconscious experience. And it is so fascinating to me that this experience is so different for so many of us. So recently I found out that I don't have an internal monologue. And actually, I think only one third of humans have what is technically called an internal monologue. And I was like, what? I can make a voice happen in my head. I can think thoughts. And apparently that's not what that is. An internal monologue is literally a voice that's in your head that you don't actually necessarily control. It's not like voices in your head telling you to go murder somebody, but it's more like a um, like the it's more like, apparently, and of course I don't have it, but it's more like, from what I've been told, my wife has it. So that's how I know a little bit about this. That as thoughts arise, they arise in a voice. They don't, like when I have a thought. So Josephine, I'm sorry. When I have a thought, it generally arises in sensations and in images, um, and sort of like a splattering of the two. And the thing is, I think so often, and I love your description of how you found out about this, because I mean, we oftentimes just assume that the way we see the world is just how everyone else sees it too. And this is where, people that are colorblind eventually are like, no, man, that's pink. That's, or, we eventually realize that the human experience is so diverse. It's so full of variations, that it's really impossible to really say this is exactly what it's like to be a human. And I find that fascinating. And this is something I research a lot. And what we typically do is we say, generally, this is what a human experience is. This is normal, right? So what is normal? What the average person experiences, what the most of us, not even the average, the most of us experience it in this way. But even then, when you think about how difficult it is to explain your experience, right? And so I always assumed I had an internal monologue until I found out what it was. And I'm like, okay, I guess I don't. And I guess most people don't. But there's a very large population that do. And then of course, still play guitar, but I used to play in bands. And I remember there would be some members of people, whenever I would play, they would have synesthesia, which is when you, for instance, when you see colors, as you have so many variations. Didn't say anything smart. Oh no, I'm losing connection right about whenever we're going to have this. That breath work has been shown. Actually, just last week they did a lot of the touted benefits of breath, of mindfulness and meditation. Not to say that a person shouldn't meditate, not to say that a person shouldn't be all three of those things. I mean, I couldn't stop thinking thoughts, and for me, I can make a thought, like I can make words happen in my mind, but so I can think thoughts, but whenever I think thoughts, typically it is accompanied by some kind of a it feels like a video or like a narrative with some kind of pictures attached to it. Like, so whenever I have a memory, it's as if I get to see it a little bit in my mind's eye again. Yeah, we weren't really kidding. It wasn't an expression of speech. Let's see. Josephine says, "If me out when my husband was explaining to me, I was literally like, you have something in your head that talks to you." So he has it. Oh my God. Yeah, that was, and the thing is, it can be more of a curse than a blessing for people who have inner dialogues, because they can't shut it off. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's important to get to know yourself. I think Dav Lavi mentioned this recently in one of these. Is, know thyself. Quoting Shakespeare, and it's so important to say, okay, the way that I experience life is subjective, right? There is no such thing as an objective experience of life, and what that means is that you don't know anything beyond your subjective experience as far as how life works. And I could go on and on, but I do need to switch over. to the monthly breath party with the Patreon club. If you guys haven't joined, you've got 10 minutes and we're going to start. But yeah, Josephine, please feel free, Josephine, to make comments. And I'm going to try to do a live tomorrow. Tomorrow, I've got guest Dave Whitley. He's just a really awesome guy, and he'll be with me tomorrow. We're just going to be talking about mostly motivation. He does a lot of motivation speaking, but he's also an old-timey strongman. But if you catch that, guys, I'd love to talk more about this. This is fantastic. And I wonder what he'd have to say about it. Dave is actually, he's been a mentor of mine since I started in this business, or in this, I guess, this space or whatever. And he's kind of like, for me, he's kind of like a Yoda or a Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's really full of wisdom, great sense of humor, excellent guy. He'll be on tomorrow afternoon. I think I've got him at 3:30. We're going to do a live tomorrow on this channel too. So hope you catch me then. Take care, everybody. And thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Please like. And of course, as always, don't forget to go out there and be kind to one another. All right, guys, I'll see you in the Patreon Breath Club in just about, let's see, a little bit less than 10 minutes. All right. Have a great one.